I can't even compete anymore. I mean, people are so gay. People are so gay now. It's just like crazy gay.
I think you could compete. I think you could outdo them.
Yeah,
all.
I try. Maybe, but it has to be older division.
So if I were to tell you that this week's guest had just published a new book titled Disco, Music, Movies, and Mania Under the Mirror Ball, then you'd be expecting some spectacular stories of glamour and debauchery, right? Right. Well, I'm pleased to tell you that this week's guest, Frank DeCaro, absolutely delivers. He and I caught up to chat about the lost legendary Chicagoan space Dugan's Bistro, which was a gay discotheque that was kind of like the cornerstone of his coming-of-age years. And I loved this chat. It was so much fun. Frank was so generous in sharing stories of friendships, wild nights, and finding himself in amongst all of the glitter and ridiculousness. And what I really loved about this conversation is, well, first of all, that Frank is just really unapologetically himself, which I know could sometimes be used as a backhanded compliment, but really was so refreshing and so joyous. And speaking of joyous, the second thing that I really loved about this conversation was that from the sounds of it, his coming out journey was just like refreshingly joyous, exciting, and celebratory. And it's really nice to be reminded that it can be that way. Like, it doesn't have to be heavy and dark, and that it can just be this like, wow, I am so glad to be queer. Anyway, let's get into it. Apologies in advance that we keep veering off topic, but I think I managed to keep us on track, kind of, mostly, sort of. My name is Kay Anderson, and this is Lost Spaces, the podcast all about lost queer spaces and how they shaped the people that we've become. Here is Frank's story. So, Dugan.
Dugan.
Okay.
Dugan's Bistro, yes.
Oh, I was going to say Bistro. Bistro?
Dugan's Bistro.
Dugan's Bistro was named the Studio 54 of Chicago. Do you think that that is a fair title?
I think it is, but we had no idea at the time that it had anything other than that sort of queer safe space about it, and that it was the place to be. But I don't think we realized that it held a legendary place in Chicago nightlife history. Mm-mm. I only figured that out after I read a book about it that came out in the last 5 or 6 years. It was by a queer historian named Owen Keenan.
Former guest on Lost Spaces.
So, and he talked about this space in its historical context. And, you know, for me, it was personal history. It wasn't so much about Chicago nightlife history. But to read that we were in the right place at the right time was really a bit of a shock. I think we went because we were just told, oh, you need to go to this place. You'll really love it. And we did.
Okay. And so then when you heard this, then like when you'd found out that Owen had written this book and had like dubbed it this legendary place, did that unlock a whole bunch of memories for you that you hadn't thought about for decades? Or has it always been like here in your heart?
It's always been very much in my heart. And partly is because I'm one of those people who keeps friends. So I'm still friends with the people that I went to Dugan's Bistro with. And we are very much in contact with each other, not on a daily basis,
Yeah, yeah.
but certainly social media has made it easy for us to know what's going on in the other person's life. But it's kind of, it is nice. And the bonds that you create that freshman year in college, your first year away, and you're all on your own for the first time, become these sort of lifelong bonds. And I wish we saw each other more often. Yeah, I do. But some of the guys have children now. One lives in Paris, one lives in Berlin, one lives about 15 minutes from here, and I never see him. But it is what it is. But I do adore those people, and you hope they'll be at your memorial service, but really you hope you'll be at their memorial service. You hope you're the last one to go.
Oh, really? Isn't it the best to be the first one to go?
No, I want to go last. I want to.
But then you're going to have to have all those different outfits, like 20
Oh, but they're
outfits.
all. I have a lot of black clothes. I'm very happy. I lived in New York for 25 years. I have a lot of black clothes. I can definitely dress for 5 or 6 different funerals. But yeah, it's pretty funny that a space like this gay bar that honestly, I think I could barely find it on a map of Chicago now. I mean, it did become a parking lot, unfortunately, for a while. And I'm sure it's a high-rise something or other now. But it was just this little street corner. And we were trying out a lot of different gay bars to try and find a home. And that ended up being the place to go. It also was a time in 1980 where you could go on, it was 50-cent drink night on Thursdays. And
Dangerous.
The remarkable thing was that a drink was only $50, but also that you could get up the next day and go to a 9:00 class and be vaguely together to pay attention to whatever was going to be taught on a Friday morning at 9 a.m.
Okay, so why don't we go back a step and
Sure.
just make sure we've positioned ourselves correctly. So we're in 1980, you're a freshman at college.
Yes, it's Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois.
Evanston, Illinois. And someone's told you about Dugan's Bistro. Do you remember first hearing about it, or do you remember first planning to go there?
Well, I should back up even a little bit further. We were in an apartment building, and we were in what they called quads. So it was 4 of us to each unit, which meant for no privacy, but a lot of fun. And we would get we would all get in trouble, and we would do things we were not supposed to. One of the dancers and my fellow friends who I used to go dancing with, he ended up leaving to go to Alvin Ailey Dance Company. He was this striking, lithe black man from New Orleans, and he was fabulous. But I woke up with him in my roommate's bed, and my roommate came home, and it was like, why are you in my bed? But it was, well, you were the only one who had any privacy. You had a little alcove, so we figured we'd come back here. I can't believe I went to bed with someone in a third person's bed. This poor straight guy. Oh. I feel bad that we did that.
But it means you didn't have to wash your own sheets, so that's kind of good.
It's true. We had fun, and he was fabulous. He was fabulous at a lot of things, but dancer was one of them. But we all met, and we all became these fast friends. And in 1980, it was kind of uncommon for us to be out. To have this group, and we came together. It was 6 or 7 of us, and we looked like the Benetton ads that of the 80s and 90s. Or the It's a Small World ride at Disneyland. There was one of everything. I was Italian from New Jersey. My friend was Jewish and from the South, from Virginia. We had a guy who went to high school with Barack Obama, we later found out, in Hawaii. We had a guy who looks like he was born in Dublin, and he's a famous American actor now.
Wait. Am I not going to get a name?
Oh, sure. No, his name is Dennis O'Hare.
Okay.
He's one of those actors. Like, if you mention his name to an actor, they will definitely know who you're talking about. And if you show a photo of him to an average person, they'll go, oh, I know that guy. But they may not know his name. So he was one of our guys. And who am I missing? Oh, and then the Alvin Ailey dancer, Darren, was just a pistol. And so funny. He was this grand queen that sort of fancied himself sort of a Grace Jones, or I would call him my Alvin Alia Vita, because he would come out of if he came home during like a meeting, and we would all be sitting in the hallway, the floor meeting, of everyone in the apartments. I remember he came out of the elevator and the doors opened and he saw that there was a captive audience, and he threw his hands above his head like Eva Peron, and he said, screw the middle classes, I will never accept them, and they will never deny me anything again. And then he walked away. So he just saw his moment and grabbed it. That's why I ended up waking up with him in my roommate's bed.
Oh, because he grabbed it.
No, he was fabulous. That too. Yeah, he did grab it. He didn't come back for more, but he was happy. Once was fine. But we've been friends ever since. So
you were saying,
so we're all there.
You were saying that at that time, you didn't really talk about being gay.
Well, no, people didn't. We did. We were uncommon because we were they called us the Northwestern Army because we were so fruity, and out. And it was uncommon, especially at a Midwestern university. I mean, it was shocking to be in a suburb of Chicago and you're as gay as could be. And there was one woman who ended up being an actress in splatter films, those horror movies where everyone gets killed.
Oh, amazing.
And she said, you guys are like the Army. You're like the Northwestern Army. So she named us this. So we would all go out.
I don't understand why you were like the Army. Because you were attacking people?
No, I think in a fashion sense, yeah, I think we were. No, she'd never seen so many gay people all in one place. None of us had seen that many gay people all in one place. It was such a new experience for all of us. And we all came out of the closet. I forgot my Chinese friend, James. So there's one more. So you've got Black, Chinese, Jewish, Irish, Hawaiian, and New Jersey Italian. So that's what we look like.
And so you've just said, and I came out of the closet. Does that mean that you weren't in the closet before you went?
I pretended I was in the closet.
You pretended?
I wasn't good at it.
Oh.
I had a boyfriend in high school.
I see.
Who I'm still friends with him. So
you need to give me your tips on how to keep friends. I'm rubbish at it.
Just be a lesbian. I'm telling you, pretend you're a lesbian and everything will work. You'll stay friends with everyone.
What?
Yeah. Well, a lot of American lesbians, they're like, oh yeah, no, she's dating her now. Oh, I dated her for a while. There's a lot of that in the lesbian community, at least in my observation. Generalizing completely. There are 9 lesbians.
I am just not going to scratch at this at all. I'm just going to accept what you said. Let's move on.
So in Los Angeles, there are 24 lesbians. They're all thin, and they spend hundreds of dollars to do their hair every month, and they just pass each other around. It's Jodie Foster is passing around. They settle on one, and then they bring a new one in. It is what.
Oh yeah, just totally unlike gay men. Yeah. Mm.
No, we don't even get a name. Nothing. We don't care. Anyway, so they called us the Northwestern Army. So we would hang out, and we were.
Oh no!
Outrageous.
You were telling me about you coming out. So.
Yes. Oh, there's that. So I had a boyfriend in high school, and I was crazy about him. And we had a very hot summer before going off to college. So I get to Northwestern, and I was like, oh, yeah, I was dating this girl back home, Aww. And I miss her so much, and that horseshit. And everyone was like, a girl? And, the Northwestern Army was like, who do you think you're fooling? A girl? And when I said I was bisexual, they practically laughed me, out the door. It was just like, oh, give me a break, you big Nelly. So... they weren't having any of it. And then it was shortly thereafter, it was like, yeah, he was a boy and he was totally hot and hung and I loved him. And that was that. But we ended up going and forging these friendships, and going to the disco was part of them, going to Dugan's Bistro. It wasn't the only part of it. I mean, when I think back on so Dennis O'Hare, the actor, and I went to a frat party, and they have fraternity rush week where they try to decide if you are worthy of pledging at their frat.
Oh, that sounds hideous.
Well, we danced with each other and then never got invited back. So it was frowned upon in 1980 for two men to dance together.
Well, I mean, not to shame you or anything in what I'm about to say, but you mustn't have really wanted to be part of the frat if you were like, oh, let's just have a dance here in front of everyone.
Oh, God, no. We kind of thought it was horrible, but we thought, oh, we should go to this. Maybe there'll be drinks, and we'll go and it'll be fun. No, I think there was a lot of I'll try everything. You know, I mean, the 70s we're on the tail end of the 70s, right? It's 1980. I was 17 when I got there. And it was the tail end of the just say yes decade. You were like, well, I've never been to a frat. Let's go, you know. And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't do my research. I just went. I was like, sounds like it'll be a party. We'll have fun.
Oh, and I guess by that time, there wasn't all of those films about frat life like that came in the 80s, right? Like, 'cause...
No, there really wasn't.
Yeah.
At least not that. And besides, we were going to see Joan Crawford movies at the Revival House, you know, anyway. But no one would know we were gay. What are you going to? Oh, my God, I'm going to see All About Eve with Bette Davis. Oh, good. Have you seen it before? Of course I've seen it before. There's a John Waters film festival. Let's go see Female Trouble and Pink Flamingos in double feature. So we would go to all these movies.
And no one would twig.
No, you mean no one would know we were big Nelly Queens?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they did, but I don't know. I guess they were like, oh, he likes his nice movies or something. I don't know. It was different then. There was still plausible deniability in those days. You know, you could just go, oh, no, he's got a wife. And people would go,
he just really likes films.
Well, that proves, it's like that proves everything. Yeah. There were so many gay actors that were flamingly gay playing fathers on television, you know. And you're just like, oh, yeah, it's fine. And all they had to go, he had a girlfriend. Oh, okay, well, then he's not gay. Everybody was not gay, you know. And now we're just like, he's gay until proven straight, you know, and it's totally different now. Is he cute? Yes, he's a gay. So, but in those days, there was still a closet to hide in.
But not for you.
But honestly, we didn't do it. And I don't really know where that gumption comes from. I never wanted to be perceived as straight.
Well, tell me more about these friends. Like, because it sounds like, from the way you've explained it, it sounds like you showed up at college and you were like, here I am. And then suddenly you had a gaggle of gays around you.
Well, this is what's different now. And in 1980, if you showed up in a place you didn't know or anywhere, if you met someone who was gay, and maybe you had one record in common, you know, that Bette Midler Live at Last record. Oh my God, from 76. Yeah. That was enough to be lifelong friends. You know, you didn't have to have the same sensibility. You didn't have to have the same taste. You were like, you're gay, you're in. Because there weren't the feeling, it felt like, well, there aren't that many of us who are dedicated to being out of the closet. And
dedicated to.
So we're, yeah, you know, and we were like, no, I'm not going to be a straightie. I don't want to be. It's like, it was a revelation. I was like, oh my God, no wonder I was so bad at being straight. I'm not. It was a big deal to realize, you know, because I'm good at being gay. I'm an excellent gay. Okay.
Ooh, what are the metrics that you're using?
Well, you know, when they say, are you a practicing homosexual? You say, no, I'm very good at it. Thank you. You know, it's just my sensibility with the things I laugh at are very gay. The things I appreciate are very gay. I like men.
Well, yeah, that is an important prerequisite. But was it just that you just showed up and you were like, here I am, and you attracted people because of the way you were? Or
yeah, we did. We had that gaydar, which was really a necessary skill now. Now I don't think it's quite as big a deal because it's like everybody's gay now, you know, or something. There's something. They're either non-binary or they're you know.
Ooh, let's not slip into this.
No. I'm saying no. Everyone gets their words now to be. You know,
Okay.
I mean, I would have been gender non-conforming. That's what I would have called myself if those words existed back then.
So wait. If they existed back then, so does that mean that you don't identify as that now?
No, I'm just a big old queen now. That's what I've tried bear. I never did twink. I missed twink completely.
Yeah,
I didn't have any confidence. But yeah, no, now I thought, oh, I'm a bear. It's like, you're not a bear. You're just a big old queen. But
if you're saying that if back then you would have identified as gender non-conforming, does that mean that you've grown out of being gender non-conforming, or you feel like you can't use
I'm more
that?
comfortable with it now. I don't know. I don't feel like I need to use it now. I'm just me.
Okay.
I always think of that. Joan Rivers, the comedian, was doing her talk show, and Sylvester came on, the singer and disco singer, and she said, well, you're a drag queen. And he said, I'm not a drag queen. I'm Sylvester. My joke is always when we say, we always joke, are you a gay? I said, I'm not a gay. I'm the gay, because I've been at it for so long. But no, I'm still gender non-conforming. You know, I was eating gingerbread that I baked. I'm flitting around, putting up Christmas decorations. I'm still as fruity as ever,
Well, so were those the telltale signs? If I know someone who's eating gingerbread, I'm like,
If they baked it themselves rather than doing the writing they were supposed to do, yes. He's a bit ginger, really. No,
and sorry to be pressing on these questions. I just find it fascinating.
No, I like talking about stuff.
Yeah, but
I like all the old words. I was like, are you gender nonconforming? No, I'm fruity. I'm a Nancy. I'm a big Nelly. As my grandmother so kindly put it, Frankie Sissy Lala. Okay, I'm a Sissy Lala.
But yeah, no, it's just really interesting. There's lots of older people that, I think, do you know the comedian David Walliams?
Oh, I adore him.
Oh, okay. Well, he's just come out in the last few weeks to say that if he was younger in today's day and age, he would probably be non-binary. And I find that kind of weird to be like, well, can't you just be non-binary now? What? You've grown out of being non-binary? What?
I just think you get too old to learn anything. You're like, I can't do it. It's like, I can't take on one more thing. I really think that it's a matter of, don't make me have to change the monogramming on my towels kind of thing, And also, we spent so much time trying to be comfortable with certain words or taking words back. Mm-hmm. I mean, it took the longest time for me to accept the word queer and not wince because it was something. I never heard the word queer without the word dirty in front of it, It was an awful thing to call somebody. So now we're just like, oh, I'm a big old queer. And I like that word because it's a real good catch-all. Mm-hmm. You can be a non-binary queer, a girl queer, a boy queer, anything in between. You could just jump in, put on your tiara and get in here with me, kind of thing.
But does that mean that you were comfortable with Nelly but not queer?
Oh, yeah, queer was a bad word back in the day.
Interesting. But Nelly was a bad word as well.
Yeah, but Nelly just sounds funny. Queer was used in anger always. You never heard anyone go, you big Nelly. You didn't scream that at somebody, but the one that's the hardest to wrap my head around, even though I do use it now, but it still makes me cringe a little bit, is the F word.
Which word is that?
With the got at the end of it, okay?
What? Oh, I'm not sure what that is.
I'm going to be a bot on a radio show now going, faggot. Okay, anyway. But no, the word faggot is the hardest one to use without wincing a little bit. But I do use it sometimes. I think that's the N word of the gay community. It really is about as bad as it gets, in America, to call somebody. I mean, fag is one thing, but faggot is really mean.
Oh.
Usually. Fag is like, oh, you big fag, get in here. I mean, when I was a kid, the next door neighbor, if he was going to beat the crap out of you, he would say, now you die, faggot. Mm-hmm. And that was terrifying. So that's what I hear when I hear that word. Now, that said, there certainly are moments where it makes me laugh my ass off when somebody uses that word. And if it's an all gay situation, it really makes me laugh. But I have to say, a lot of us still have PTSD from those grade school years where we were just getting called. I got called a fag every day. And I am not exaggerating. Every day. There was one kid who all he cared about going to school was to call me a fag. That was his entire raison d'etre, was to ruin my day. And he did. And then you realize, oh, I'm going to go be the biggest gay anyone's ever seen, Although now...
Just you wait.
Now, I know. But now there's, oh my God. I can't even compete anymore. I mean, people are so gay. People are so gay now. It's just crazy gay.
I think you could compete. I think you could outdo them.
Yeah, I try. Maybe, but it has to be older division now. I can't go up against certain... I'd have to become a they, and then there's too many things I'd have to do, and I'm too old for that. I just have to just be me and keep doing my shtick.
That bathrobe has been monogrammed. You don't want to have to.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, you can't change everything. You do realize it's only part of who you are. The older you get, it's a huge part of who I am. But I'm an Italian. I'm Italian American. I'm an only child, and they all kind of figure in. But gay's a big part. And I love, and this is what set us apart even in 1980. Back to our story here. We were so happy to be gay. There wasn't one of us who didn't think it was a gift. We were really like, oh, I love being a queer.
How interesting.
And I don't know why, but I know we found each other. But we were not, it was not a lot of gay shame. Even though we had our issues, we really felt lucky that we didn't have to, that we could write our own rules pretty much for social conventions. Even this, I mean, some of these guys ended up having children, and some of us wear caftans and go to cocktail parties. It's.
But the two never meet then, is that what you're saying?
No, they don't. They wear maybe a kilt. Maybe they'll wear a kilt for fun, but they don't wear a caftan.
Yeah, as soon as you've got kids, you're not in a caftan anymore.
Nope. It's just till they go off to school. I guess maybe you cheat on your husband and wear caftans and drink during the day. Yes, exactly. Day drinking.
So, Dugan's Bistro.
Yes. With your accent, you can say it anyway, and it sounds good. Yes. Any way you say it sounds good. Dugan's Bistro.
Dugan's.
Yes.
I should say Dugan's because that's anyway. So I had asked if you remember the first time you'd heard about it or like planning to go the first time.
Oh, that's how I ended up going into the monologue.
That's how we spent the last 20 minutes going on.
Yes. No, so we would all meet downstairs and she'll say, what do you guys do? This girl from the splatter movies would go, hey, what are you guys doing? And we go, we're going to the B. That's what we called it, the B, because you didn't want to say the bistro because somebody would find out you were, a big gay. Mm-hmm. So we're going to the B. And then you would take the L train from Evanston down to Chicago and then walk in the freezing cold with your fake ID. And in those days, fake IDs were a piece of cardboard, a piece of oak tag or whatever you call it, that you scraped off the second number of your, that you took off like the 2 and made it a 0. So suddenly you were 21 instead of, 19 or whatever. And then you'd put like packing tape over it so it looked like you'd laminated it. And in the dark, when they'd look at your ID, there were no photos or anything. So you just look at it, okay, come on in. And even our driver's licenses didn't have photos in those days, so you could get away with anything.
But do you remember first hearing about it?
The space, I don't know who found out about it. It just kind of was a, what do they say? Telephone, telegraph, telequeer. It's like it just the names gets out, and you're like, oh, this is where you need to go. And once anyone had gone to a club, you'd have to go check it out. But I think once we heard 50 cent drink night on Thursdays, that was all we needed. It was like 50. In those days, a bank machine would give you $5, and you could party on $5. $5 was 10 drinks. It's like, it's
that's messy. Okay, and so you'd get your fake ID, you'd go through the door. Tell me about the feeling of going through the front door.
I'll tell you the bad part first. You didn't look back. As each of you got it, if somebody didn't pass muster and didn't get in, you didn't notice until you were inside. You were just like, bye-bye, get home safe. And you'd go in. And I have a friend who's still mad. One of we call them the girls who went with us were our gun malls. I always say the one who was our leading gun mall was with the one guy who had the least chance of getting in. And she was so mad because he kind of made it so they looked like they were together, and that didn't work out. And she's still mad about it 40 years later. But you'd get through the door and you'd check your coat, and then there was like a bar when you first walked in, but then a dance floor up a few stairs to the left. Mm-hmm. It was, in those days, you compared everything. We still do, but even then, you compared everything to Oz, and suddenly it was like you're in the Wizard's Hall, and all the Munchkins are or whoever the Oz people are going out of their minds dancing to disco music, and it was fun. But I remember walking in and just thinking it was this magical place, and it was home for at least for a little bit of a time. And we were terrible at getting picked up. We were so young for one thing, but we just looked like kids who snuck in and.
But does that mean that you were looking to get picked up?
Oh, sure. I always were looking to get laid. Oh my God. As I said, the 70s were just say yes. So this was before we knew what AIDS was. And so everyone was like, oh, please, can I get laid? And I think the reason I'm sitting here is because usually the answer was, no, you cannot get laid. Okay. It was like, you look weird. Your sense of humor is even worse. And you're not getting laid. No, in a good way. No, worse I don't mean that as
terrible in a good way.
Your sense of humor. No, because it is. It's like Divine eats dog shit at the end of the movie. Sign me up. You know, it was that, and you know, that was not what people were looking for. They wanted you to sort of be vaguely in the closet or look macho or look something, you know. And here we were, like, oh my God, you want to go see this movie? It's like, it's so fun. It's like,
it's so funny though, isn't it? Like, because I don't think that perception and behavior has actually changed all that much in the last 40 years. Like, people are still like, I want someone who's masked, or I'm not interested, or I want you to be like this, and I want someone who's not very gay. And it's so depressing.
If you let it be, it's just, you know, but yeah, it is. Honestly, you get to a certain age and you decide that almost everyone is stupid. This is once you get to that, yeah, most everybody's stupid. At least in America. I will not speak for the rest of the world.
No, go ahead. Sweeping broad statement. You're welcome.
No, I don't want to. But in America, we have learned since Election Day that at least 51% of America is stupid. Stupid, and not just stupid, but stupid. Okay, stupid. But anyway, now that I've slagged half of America, it's okay. They don't like me either, so it's
Well, if it's any consolation, I don't think there's many MAGA listeners on this podcast, so they're probably not going to come for you.
I hope not, unless they buy a book. If you buy a book, I'll sign Donald Trump. It's my favorite. You know, if you'll part with $55, I will happily write anything you like
come on,
in your
Frank,
book.
Come on. Would you?
Would I really?
Come on.
No.
Come on.
Of course not. But it sounded all right, didn't it? Didn't it sound bold? It sounded bold for a minute there, I think. But no, I wouldn't. I'm all talk. What can I say? I'm all talk about almost everything. But I don't lie. That's the other thing, is I'm not. I'll pull your leg, but I'm not a good liar. I have no poker face. But anyway, that has nothing to do with anything. Back to Dugan's.
Dugan's. Oh, not getting picked up. Hyper-masculine wants of the gay scene. How terrible they all are. Stupid. Oh, how you just... Oh, accept that everyone's stupid. So do you just move through life like, you're all fucking idiots, I don't give a shit?
You kind of have to hold your tongue and you just shake your head more and more and more. You know, the older you get, that is really the thing. You just shake your head a lot, and you just go... All right, then I'll go over here now, and yeah, it is upsetting. But
so, should we get back to the Northwestern Army?
Yes.
And Dugan's Bistro. Did I say it right that time?
Dugan's. Yeah, that was perfect.
So we talked about like going. We talked about showing up with your fake ID and getting in. What we haven't talked about is the day after, the night before. What was it like waking up after a night out at Dugan's?
Well, I have to say one thing about Dugan's. I always remember there was a song called "Feels Like I'm in Love." I think it was might have been Madeleine Kane. Was that?
No.
Kelly. Yes, Kelly. Yes, yeah, that's the one. Kelly Marie. Thank you,
yes,
Kelly Marie. Yes. It's like, feels like I'm in love. And the guy from Alvin Ailey would spin me around until I'd like fall over the banquette and, you know, and plop down and messily. And you would stay out and then you would go to, there was a diner that was open all night called the Gold Coin, which we would call the Cold Groin. And you'd go there and then you'd go home and sleep for a couple of hours. And then you'd go to class at 9 or 10 in the morning. And if it was a film appreciation class or something, or film theory, and they turned the lights off to watch a movie, that was the end of that, because you were asleep. You know, it was just, that's it. So you kind of would nod off on those Fridays. But it was worth it. All of those, I mean, I do think you have to go and be a good student, but if you're going to spend all that money. But there are times where indulging yourself. I went to see... the night before the Law and Ethics of Journalism final, I went to see Pee Wee Herman in concert. And it was before Pee Wee Herman was on television other than on talk shows. There was no HBO special yet. There was no appearances on late night talk shows. Or actually, there were late night talk shows, but there was no Pee Wee's Playhouse. But I went to see his act, and it was, I can tell you, I don't remember anything from that class, but I remember a lot of that concert. And it was the right decision to make, to have seen him in this character's infancy, you know.
But you still passed the test, right?
I got a D, but it was okay. I was a really good student. But in high school, I didn't have to do anything, and I still was a straight A student. It was really stupid.
Yeah.
It was not challenging in high school. But then college, I couldn't get an A to save my life until like sophomore year.
Oh, it's annoying,
I couldn't get an
isn't
A in
it?
anything.
I had the same thing. And
Yeah,
like,
they were smarter than you were.
Well,
Everybody.
Well, it's not that they were smarter, it's that they knew how to apply themselves because they had to apply themselves in high school, and they just brought those skills with them, and you didn't. So we're like, what? You want me to like actually read?
No, I think I knew other people who breezed through school. They were just like, yeah, whatever. Or, although, no, you're right. Some of them did have more challenging classes and stuff. But suddenly I had to really work for an A or a B or a C. But not too many C's. But I was a valedictorian in high school, and it says everything about the high school and nothing about me. Because it was... and my high school boyfriend was like the number 3 student. So it was like we were all, it was, we were...
In a class of 4 people, or...
No, it was a class of 400 and something. I did arrive on the short bus. It's true. No, I didn't. But, so college was, you would get up the next day and you'd go to class and hope for the best. And but it was, I got through it all right. But you start to realize, the older you get, you start to realize that those friendships may have been the greatest accomplishment of your years there, and although I learned to write, I became a really good writer there, but you also become a really good writer by writing.
Yeah.
So I'm a much better writer now than I was in the beginning. But also I had a spite thing with that, because they had a visiting professor who was a TV journalist who now is nationally known. If he's still with us.
Do we get names?
And he said to me after his name was Bill Curtis, 3 weeks in a basic writing class, he said, well, you have no natural writing talent, but if you worked hard, you might be something. Those were the words. Not that I remember them verbatim, but that's what he said.
Hell.
And so every time I'm like in the New York Times, I'm like, hey, Bill, fuck you, but spite is good. Spite, for some of us, spite is a very motivating emotion, and so I was very like, I'm going to show you.
But now that you have shown him, are you still holding on to that spite?
Yeah, I'm Italian. Are you kidding? It's like I'm an Italian Scorpio only child. I can hold on to spite till the end of... Beyond my death, I will be able to hold on to a grudge.
Oh, okay. No. Because I do agree with you. Like, spite and anger can be really helpful in propelling you and, like, getting you forward.
Yeah.
But I think for me, there's a point where that becomes poisonous. Like, it tips over.
Well, you need someone to tell you you're garbage, but also secretly then find someone who's like, don't listen to them. You're really good at this. And then you have the fear of your garbage, but the confidence of people you admire telling you, no, you're really good at this. But I think you need both. I think if you're told you're God's gift all the time, it leads to a lot of, mediocrity, I think. I think you have to always be scared a little bit and always be... I'm proud. This new book, I'm more proud of this book than I've been of anything except the first book 30 years ago. I really love this book. And I never say that. I never, ever talk about my work in a way where I say, no, it's really good. I don't usually have the confidence to say that. But this, I was like, no, that's pretty good. I'm still mad that there is a TV episode about disco that I didn't know existed, because it sounds like the kitschiest, dumbest thing, and it should so be in my book. There was a TV show called Family, and one of the young, impressionable kids fell in with someone who was a discophile, who was a couple of years older, and it almost ruined their life. That is so my kind of storyline, and I didn't know until after the book came out that episode existed. So, but there aren't too many things like that where I was like, no, it's in there. And they was like, what about, it's in there.
Okay, so let's go back then to Dugan's Bistro and the Northwestern Army. What do you think, having access to that space and also having access to that group of friends, how do you think it changed your life?
I think knowing you were not alone in the journey was a big deal. I mean, you know in your head that you're not the only gay, but you don't know it in your heart until you see it in front of you. And I think that spending time dancing with these 5 and 6 and 7 other people really changed my life in a hugely positive way because I knew I wasn't alone. And I don't think I knew that 45 years later I'd still be friends with these guys. You never can plan on that. But it was a safe space. I remember the first time I went to the Chicago Film Festival, and it was the late, great gay celluloid closet film theory guy, Vito Russo, was giving a talk. And I was in a room in a theater, and it was only gay men. And it was a big theater, and there were only gay men sitting there. It was shocking. It was like, oh my God, look at us. We're all here to hear and laugh at the same things. We're all going to react to a vintage margarine commercial where the woman says, I feel like a queen. And the audience is going to fall over dead, laughing. And to realize that the shared sensibility is out there. For me, being gay is so little about who you sleep with and so much about what you laugh at or appreciate or admire. I think it has a lot more for me anyway, it has a lot more to do with that. I think sex is sex for most people. It's just who you're there with.
Well, this makes me... So I wrote something down earlier, and then the conversation moved on, so I didn't bring it up. But when you were talking about gay bars in the late 70s, early 80s, you said that they were a safe place back then. And that might have just been like the words that just came out of your mouth. But the fact that you said back then caught my attention. Do you still feel that they're a safe place?
I don't know if they even exist anymore. In some ways, it feels like, but it's also, I'm talking about someone who's, I lived in the gay mecca of New York City and, Greenwich Village and Chelsea for 25 years. I've lived now in Los Angeles for 11. And, you're in West Hollywood and it looks like gay Disneyland, and there are windows and go-go boys in them and people milling about, drag queens on the street and muscle boys and people in thongs, And in the old days, you were scared going to, the gay bar. You couldn't wait to get in fast enough and hope that no one saw you. And now you're walking in the big cities anyway, you're walking hand in hand with your husband or your boyfriend. And it's a very different experience. I do think, that's from a very sheltered and privileged position. If I were in a small town in the Midwest, it might be terrifying, when you live in, California, you don't necessarily think, all right, who voted for Trump? Who's around me? Because it kind of feels like this big, and there are people who, on your block who did, but you don't think about that. And because you don't feel threatened so much. And because there are more people in your corner of the world that think the way you do. So that is a different feeling, I think. But with gay bookstores going by the wayside, and I think the ones that are left we have to really treasure, and the same with gay bars. But you look at it and it's like, it's not 50-cent drink night, it's $26 drink night, and that's a big difference. There's not a carefree, low stakes sort of evening involved.
But it sounds like you're also saying that the safety has expanded beyond just gay bars, or the feeling of safety.
Yeah, you can go to a musical and hold hands and not feel that nervous usually. Yeah. I'm not saying I would do that just anywhere, but but you can do it.
So which musical would you do it at? Which musical wouldn't you do it at?
Well, we went. So last time we were in New York, we went to see Suffs, which is about the suffragettes who were actually wanted to be known as the suffragists. Because anyway, they wanted the women to have the right to vote. My husband's sitting next to me, and I texted him. I did a left hand, a right, pointing up, pointing back, pointing right, pointing left, and I wrote Muff Divers because it was all lesbian audience. And he was like, he loved it. This musical about, this, it was all women, and no, I told him, I said, there are no men in the cast, and there's not a sequin to be had. Do you think it's my kind of thing? And he was like, I guess not. And I was like, no. But all the lesbians were very nice to us, and they're usually only nice to my husband. Lesbians always don't like me because I say things. I don't watch my tongue, and I say bad things.
I get a sense from you that
yes, lesbian comedians like me, but run of the jet,
Run of the
mill lesbians don't like me as much because I do. If there's a bad thing to be said, I'll choke on it if I don't say it out loud. So I definitely have to, because I didn't write lesbians with the arrows. I wrote muff divers, ! But it's just the urge to say that. And it's not like I don't like them. I just think it's like, how come you not, it's like when we see, if we're walking
Frank,
down the
maybe
street
we should
holding.
just stop this.
No, this will be, I'll come back to this. If my husband and I are walking down the street in West Hollywood with holding hands, and we see another gay couple and they're holding hands, the moment they're behind us, I look at them and go, thanks. Okay, I always say that. Okay,
I think everyone
and it's
does
like,
that,
I can't help it. Yeah, 'cause and if, I have, my nephew is politically correct and stuff, and so he was telling me, he said, this guy came out to me and we all couldn't believe he took so long to tell all his friends and the whole. So I saw him like a month later. I said, how's your dirty queer friend? And he looked at me like his eyes bugged out of his head. And I was like, you know what I mean? I'm just saying it to get a rise out of you. Of course, it's like, I can't help it. The urge to, it's like, how bad is, I remember when I was touring with this insult comedian who was quite famous in America for a while, Lisa Lampanelli. And I remember trying to explain her to someone, and I said, all right, imagine the worst thing you could possibly say and then ramp it up about 10 times and say it. And the woman, this lesbian woman, looked at me, she goes, why would that be funny? And I was like, I can't explain it to you. It's like either the most inappropriate thing is the funniest thing, or it's not. It's like, it's not your thing then. It's like, that's that. But I do. I like, my dearest friend, the day after my father died on December 23rd, years ago. And he would have held out till Christmas to really fuck up Christmas if he could have. But he died on the 23rd. And the 24th, we always give a big dinner party for Christmas Eve. And my best friend in the world walked in and said, why is it so quiet in here? Did somebody fucking die? And that was, my father had died the day before. But he said it on purpose because he knew I would love that it was the worst thing you could say. But it was like saging the place. It was like, oh, thank God, we can talk about the fact my father died yesterday, because we just joked in the worst possible way about, somebody dying. And he looked at me and said, I was so nervous, but I knew you'd like that. And I was like, yes, it was exactly the right thing to say to me when I was so sad that he'd passed. It's like, yeah, that's exactly. It's Joan Rivers doing jokes about 9/11 on 9/12. She did. She told jokes the next morning, and you're like, either you handle tragedy by making fun of it and taking the power away, or you don't. But you can't explain that to somebody. It's so much funnier if you just laugh at everything that scares the pants off you or horrifies you or,
Okay.
So.
Well, before you get cancelled, shall we move on? And
yes.
And so you talked about the importance of the space. You talked about the importance of your friends. If you can think back to the version of you, the Frank that's in Illinois, who's at college, who is starting to make those first steps out onto the queer scene, is there anything that you think he needs to hear?
Yeah, I think I would tell my younger self, don't hate yourself for as long as you're going to. Do it for a little while and then get over it, which is easier said than done. You should hate yourself a little bit. It's not bad to hate yourself a little, but don't make it a lifestyle. Don't make self-deprecation your resting pulse if you can help it. But I wish I'd listened to, my mother used to always say, nobody's better than you and you're no better than anybody else. And I wish I'd taken that to heart more or believed it in, I believed it in my head. I didn't believe it in my heart. But I did learn that. And I do. I think if I'm the guy if you go, when I used to go on a date and someone was mean to the waiter, that was the last time you ever saw that person. It's like, you don't date people who are shitty to waiters. No. It's like, they're horrible human beings.
Why would you even do that anyway?
Yeah. No, but it's like, if you are outside and someone is cleaning the hallway in your apartment building, if you act like they're not there, you're an asshole. Okay? You always say, good morning. How are you? How have you been? I haven't seen you in a while. It's like, what? They're less than you because they're doing something you don't want to do? It's like, no, that's absurd. It's like, be nice to everybody.
Yeah, and you should be grateful that they're cleaning it for you.
It's true. And it's like, and be nice. If you have to pick who you're going to be nicer to, be nicer to that person than someone else. Be nice to the postman. If you're on TV, be nice to the cameraman. You know, it's like the lighting guy should be your best friend because they're gonna make you look better. You know, never think you're better than anybody else because nothing good comes of that. But I think that's what I would have told me. And also I would have said, get your weight under control, you dummy. I'd say, I am so much more terrified of stepping on a scale at the doctor's office than walking on stage in front of 1,000 people. And there's nothing to that. Oh, it's nothing to stand in front of people. It's like, oh, this is fun. But to get on a scale and then don't say it out loud and what? And then they tell you your weight out loud. It's like, I asked you not to say that dreaded number out loud. But no, but getting on stage is not scary. That's, you know. But
Okay. So
yeah.
The flip of that question.
Yes.
What do you admire the most about that version of you and who he was?
I like that he was brave enough to be so bold at such a young age. I think that I think young me was just going to set the world on fire and wasn't really like confidence, but well, I guess it was. You know, people always say things like, you know, if I knew that I was going to be talking to, you know, Cher or Elton John, who is my two favorites of all time, one day I wouldn't have believed it. It's like, no, I totally would have believed it. I totally was like, of course I'm going to talk to Cher and Elton John. Why wouldn't I? Of course they'll like me. I think I thought I was going to talk to them over coffee at their house. So that didn't happen. You know, it wasn't like I'm pals with them.
Not too late. It's not too late.
No, I know. I think still say Cher would like me if I baked things and brought it over. But so I did have that confidence. But it's just the idea that I was proud of being a gay and I was also not going to, or that I felt the responsibility to make it better for the people coming up behind me. You know, I admire that because I think that for someone as self-absorbed, that's pretty altruistic. You know, I mean, that is kind of, I think my heart's in the right place. You know, I think that's my strongest suit is my heart's in the right place. Because it has to be, or you can't say terrible things. You know, you can't really be a jerk if you're going to say jerky things. You know, otherwise you're just a jerk. You have to sort of say awful stuff because you're a pussycat. You know, and then you're like, no, I'm sweet, but I'm going to say something horrible. You know.
And once again, that is us for another week. If you loved this chat, then make sure you go and grab yourself a copy of Frank's latest book, Disco, Music, Movies, and Mania Under the Mirror Ball. And I'll make sure that there's a link in the show notes for this episode. And I'll also make sure that there are links to his socials, which includes his Instagram account, which is @Frank DeCaro Show. Whilst you're on socials and you're following people, find me on TikTok and on Instagram as Lost Spaces Pod. Right. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you back here next week. Bye for now.